Today we're going to talk about colored pencil techniques. There are different techniques that you can use to make your colored pencil work look more professional, have more texture, have more value, all kinds of different stuff. So we're going to go through a variety of techniques. You have a sheet that's labeled Colored Pencil Techniques Practice, and on that sheet there are a list of techniques going down the left side, and then 5 boxes to the right of each of those techniques in which you are to practice them. This particular example is really lovely. She took the time to use a certain color order. You are under absolutely no obligations to do that. I just want you to practice using each of the techniques at least 5 times and fill each box correctly with the assigned technique. So the first one says shading, smoothly blended layers, multicolor. For this particular one, she did not use multicolor. What I intended when I put that box on there was that you use different colors to create the illusion of something coming closer to you or being farther away, to create depth. But then at the bottom it also says shadows and highlights. So in the use of that bottom box, you kind of get the same idea as what's going on in the top one. So for the top, we're just going to practice doing a light value to a dark value. I don't care if you go left or right, top to bottom, doesn't matter, but just choose a color and per each box, fill it in with a lighter value by applying less pressure and gradually working away to a darker value. Just like with using graphite pencils, you can layer your value on to get darker, or you can just press more firmly. I want you guys to be neat. I'm being a little quick because I don't want you to have to sit there and watch a long, boring video. But you get the idea. You want to kind of transition from light value to dark value as smoothly as you can. So 1 box done, do the other 4, call it a day. The next set of directions says hatch, cross hatch, different marks and mix together. Excuse me. With colored pencils, you don't have to use them like crayons and just color the whole box. You can use hatches and cross hatches to create the illusion of both texture, value, and combine different colors. For instance, if I wanted to combine, hopefully you'll be able to see this, yellow and red to make kind of an orange, I could do hatch marks going diagonally with the yellow. They're fairly close together so that a lot of that value shows, and then perhaps go the other direction with the red. Not sure if that optical mixing is showing through, but it should make kind of an orange value. Maybe it needs more yellow. But the idea is that you're just experimenting using hatch marks and cross hatches with your colored pencils. Scumbling again is another one of your sketch marks that we discussed when we did our line drawings. Remember, scumbling is controlled scribbles. You can mix colors again to blend them together. Fill your box. These are great textures if you're doing a landscape that has trees or shrubs in it. Sometimes for hair. The next line says directional marks. Create texture and dimension using lines. Blend and shade. So just like when we used graphite to shade spheres and we use those curved lines to emphasize the volume, you can do that with your colored pencils as well. If you wanted to emphasize the shape of an object, you would use curved lines if the object was curved. So maybe for this one you want to draw a sphere and shade it with curved lines to create the illusion of form. That can also mean that your lines go the direction that they do in real life. For instance, with hair. If you have long, straight hair, you would use long, straight lines. Maybe have some darker than others. For grass, you might have, lines that kind of go at the same length but start at different spots on the page and kind of go the same direction but may have some variation in that. So it can create texture, real life texture in this situation. Incised marks, lighter color, overlap darker color, scratch off top to reveal bottom. So we're going to take the lighter color. Let's do pink. Fill in the box. It's usually good to put this really heavy and thick so that it shows correctly when you scratch off the top layer. We're going to put another layer directly over top of that with a darker colored pencil. Because colored pencils are made of wax, you can sometimes layer them one on top of the other without the lower color showing through a whole lot. And now it says scratch off the top to reveal the bottom. So I'm going to use this paper clip that's kind of unfolded and just scratch away that purpley blue that I put on top of the pink. And you can see the pink is starting to show through. This is a great way to get little tiny details or also to create texture. I hope you guys can see that from there. Maybe I can magnify. Let's see. Oh yeah. Alright, I'm going to zoom back out. The next line says burnishing, and this is where the wax of the colored pencils is really neat. Fill all your boxes with one color layer. So all of the boxes get colored for this one. Blend, so we'll use a paper towel to blend together or smooth it out almost. Repeat with the same color on the last 4 boxes, so the second time around you skip the first one and do the last 4. Repeat it. Skip the first 2 and repeat on the last 3. Then skip the first 3 and repeat on the last 2, and so on. So for this one, pick a color you like because this whole row is going to be that one color. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because of time, but I'll do enough of it to give you an idea. So I'm going to shade all of the boxes with one layer. I didn't think to grab a paper towel before I sat down to do this, so I'm going to use a tissue, which I do not want you all to do. I want you to use paper towels. They work better because they're less absorbent. Put it over your finger and smooth it out. Kind of go in circles. It doesn't make a whole lot of a difference in the very beginning, but when you layer the color one layer on top of the other, you start to see this jewel tone effect. And what that is because you're smoothing it out with your paper towel, the wax is getting really smooth and glossy. So then when you layer, so we'll skip the first one, layer the next layer on top and do the same thing, it really makes this jewel tone a depth type effect that's very pretty. So then smooth out, skip the first 2. And again, done correctly, this has a really neat effect. You know you're doing it right if you turn your paper a little to the side and the light shines off of it. Sometimes it's helpful to turn the direction of your shading lines so that you're not getting these scratchy marks that go all the way across. I said I wasn't going to do the whole thing. I am. So the color becomes more opaque and rich as you shade across. And I won't do the last one. The next one is similar to incised marks. It's called scratch out. Thick layer, scratch off to reveal paper. So instead of using 2 colors like you did in the incised mark, you're just going to use one color, scratch it away with the paper clip, and show the paper underneath. And that again creates texture. That works best when you use a thick layer of colored pencil. Notice I'm using my fingernail to kind of keep myself from going out of the lines too much. There's all kinds of little tricks like that that you can do. Have I lost my paper clip? There he is. So then scratch away. Let's zoom. Ta-da! Again, great for creating texture. If you were doing, say, a leaf that had little white veins that went through it that were very small and detailed, it would be really hard to leave that space white coloring with colored pencil. But you can scratch that area away and get the same amount of detail with much less effort. Impressions are a fun one. Draw firmly on a separate piece of paper that's over your boxes and then color over the indentations that it leaves behind. This works best if you also have a sheet of paper or two under, because it helps when you make the impressions to have something softer for the impressions to press down into rather than your hard desktop that doesn't give with the pressure. So I've lined this up over top of my box. You can kind of see the box through the paper, and I'm going to write my initials on this other sheet of paper, pressing very firmly so that it leaves an indentation in the final paper. And then when I color over that with my colored pencils, you can see that that area stays white. Ooh, fun. You've probably done that before on accident, but hadn't thought about different ways that you might could use it intentionally. And then lastly, shadows and highlights. Fill one layer, so one color in the whole box, and then blend an area with cool, think your blue, greens, and violet colors, or warm, red, oranges, and yellows. So if I choose kind of a medium valued color, this olive green will work. Fill the whole box. The goal with this is, again, that you're learning to mix your colors together smoothly and gradually, and controlling the pressure and the outcome. So I'm going to use yellow as my warm color, and along the top just slightly mix a little yellow. I don't want to see a harsh line where the yellow ends and the green begins. I want them to blend together to transition smoothly. For my cool color, I'm going to use a deeper green, and along the bottom have that green start off kind of heavy and then lightly blend it by applying less pressure into the more olive green color. Again, the goal is to have them blend smoothly without there being a harsh line that shows where one ends and the other begins. Alright, you guys are responsible again for filling all of the boxes on this sheet, practicing each technique that's listed in the row that you're working on, and let me know if you have questions.